is something you want to feel. There is something you like to
Hello and welcome to the news on NTA International, reaching you live from Abuja. I am Habiba Oladipo. We begin with a look at the headlines. President Muhammadu Buhari gives nod to APC governor to implement robust initiative for socio-economic development. As All Progressive Governors Forum resolved to chart a pragmatic approach towards sustainable national development in Nigeria. Nigeria Terroir Money and Social Investment Initiative wins Africa's Most Impactful Financial Inclusion Award. The Progressive Governor Forum has resolved to chart a pragmatic course towards the execution of a renewed mandate of the governing APC by Nigerians by dismantling obstacles in national development for sustainable future of the country. Chairman of the Forum and Governor of Kebbi State, Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, announced this after leading the APC governors to an interactive session with President Muhammadu Buhari. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
This is the first formal meeting between President Muhammadu Buhari and members of the Progressive Governors Forum since the inauguration of new administrations at both the national and state levels. While the President and the returning members of the Forum are barely 3 weeks into their renewed mandate of consolidation for the newly elected governors of the party, it is still a learning period. To the Progressive Governors Forum, however, there is no better time than now to plan for a more coordinated approach towards making the next level agenda more decisive and impactful on Nigeria's national life. This meeting, held behind closed doors, was therefore convened to bring the President up to speed on strategies towards the implementation of the new initiatives for a better Nigeria.
We offer our support to work with Mr. President continuously to ensure that we increase the economic performance and social cohesion. We will be very more active in ensuring that investment in all the areas that can provide employment and incomes rapidly will increase. We will collaborate more to ensure that security is enhanced, particularly where it involves conflicts that are across state borders.
Although the newly elected governors might not have benefited directly from the President's magnanimous gestures in the last 4 years, their respective states must have either felt or are still feeling their impact. And on this, the APC governors were unanimous in appreciating the Nigerian leader.
We are quite happy with the support for states, where over 2 trillion, close to 2 trillion naira was given in the form of restructuring of loans, refunds on federal roads, refund for Paris Club, which has helped encourage economic activity in the states, payment of salaries, payment of pension, payment of gratuities, and overall investment in the economy by infrastructure spending. We are equally appreciative of increased investment in agriculture, which has been because of conscious decision to support agriculture as a way out of our economic challenges and provide economic growth.
The governors used the opportunity to commend President Buhari for the giant strides recorded so far in the areas of security, economy, and public accountability. Despite the drop in incomes, they say the value for money, which the President has always insisted upon, has been paying off with significant results in critical sectors of the economy. The governors also appreciated the President for successfully celebrating the new National Democracy Day, not only consistent with his promise, but also a major element reflective of his democratic ideals, thereby putting to rest an issue so important to many Nigerians. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
And Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State has been given the go-ahead by President Muhammadu Buhari to implement his robust initiative for the enhanced socio-economic development in the Center of Excellence. This was during a meeting with the President, who also granted audience to the Governor of Kano State, Abdullahi Umar Ganduje. Again, State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has the details.
Describing his first formal engagement with the president since coming to power as an honor, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State briefed the Nigerian leader behind closed doors on his robust plan of action for the development of the state. Most importantly, his mission is to seek for cooperation and collaboration with the federal government, as well as the approval and support of the president.
Essentially to improve the quality of life and business development in Lagos. And we're very serious about it to ensure that we keep our whole state safe, secure, and it's also the gateway to economic development of the country. And so we must continue to encourage the international investors and also the private sector that Lagos remain ready for business and it's safe.
What are you taking away from your interaction with the president? How did he respond to your plan initiative for Lagos in the next level?
I can't get it any better. I mean, his words were very encouraging. You know, his acceptance to the initiative that brought on board were very resounding. And so I'm very enthused, I'm very encouraged, and it just gives me the opportunity to go and do a lot more once we get this off the track.
President Buhari's engagement with Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduje of Kano State centered on security of lives and property in the center of commerce for lasting peace and prosperity.
We are always in synergy with security agencies to ensure that Kano remains peaceful despite what is happening in the neighboring states. So I showed him that our emphasis now is on community policing, community participation, especially those local governments surrounding the forest here in Kano. So as of today, I think Kano is one of the most peaceful states in the Federation.
Governor Ganduje also gives an update on the probe he ordered in respect of the 6.8 million naira allegedly swallowed by a gorilla in a Kano zoo.
The preliminary report we have received is that there was an armed robbery, not the issue of gorilla. The issue of gorilla is a junk journalism, I think, because there is even no gorilla in the zoo. So, but we learned that there was armed robbery, of which the whole safe was even carted away, but they are still investigating.
The governor used the opportunity to confirm that discussions are still ongoing towards reconciling him with the Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi II. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has signed into law 2 bills seeking the establishment of the National Institute for Security, as well as the amendment of the Federal Polytechnic Act. The senior special assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters, House of Representatives, Umar Yakubu, announced this while briefing newsmen. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that the President also granted audience to a delegation of progressive ambassadors of Nigeria. Details in our subsequent bulletin. The European Union Election Observer Mission to Nigeria has explained that most of the recommendations contained in its report in the 2019 general elections in Nigeria requires legal reforms. The foreign mission stated this when it visited the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawal, as part of consultation for the National Assembly's intervention.
17 days after his election, President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, had his first official meeting. It was with the European Union Election Observation Mission to Nigeria. The essence of the meeting is for the observer mission to officially present a copy of its report on the 2019 general elections in Nigeria to the legislative arm of government. The report, made of 30 recommendations, also appreciated the improvement Nigeria has made so far in its electoral process, but called for more.
Of those 30, we've identified 7 priority recommendations, but really our ultimate conclusion is that a process of comprehensive reform is needed.
President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, explained that the National Assembly has always embraced positive changes to the electoral process.
The INEC particularly is one institution that has been supported fully by the National Assembly and will continue to do that. through legislation to improve its capacity, but also through appropriations to ensure that it gets whatever it requires for very credible and optimum organization, processing, and conduct of our elections.
Both parties re-echoed the existing relations between Nigeria and the European Union and harped on the need to strengthen the ties, especially in the areas of economic and political advancement.
The United States Agency for International Development, USAID, is taking advantage of the present administration efforts to ensuring universal health coverage for Nigerians to launch its integrated health program in 3 states of Sokoto, Bauchi, and Kebbi. The mission director said all is set to hit the ground running. Adebola Brooklyn Sunday reports.
Records from the Federal Ministry of Health show that the most vulnerable groups in the society are mothers and children, who are always prone to the negative effects of various health problems that exist among the population. Nigeria has made notable progress, particularly in refocusing its attention to primary health care, maternal and child health. However, neonatal, infant and under 5 mortality is still a challenge. It is in a bid to further tackle the challenge that the American agency is partnering Nigeria and investing $225 million to strengthen health system which supports primary health care and services.
IHP will focus on improving quality maternity and newborn care in health facilities, on routine immunizations, malaria diagnosis and treatment of common childhood diseases, all of which data show will significantly reduce incidence of mortality of mothers and children.
Applying a life cycle approach and seize every opportunity to offer high impact, inclusive, gender-sensitive health services, removing barriers to access and coverage.
Chief of Staff to the Kebbi State Governor Suleiman Muhammad Argungu spoke on behalf of the 3 benefiting states.
We will do everything possible to support this network and promote equity, quality, and dignity. We will strongly make quality of care as a priority within the framework of universal health coverage.
2 more states are to benefit from the 5-year program. Adebola Brooklyn Sunday, NTA News.
And staying with health matters, the United States of America has reaffirmed support to the Nigerian Defense Ministry efforts at reducing the spread of HIV/AIDS and other related diseases among military personnel as well as civilians living around the barracks. The United States Ambassador to Nigeria gave the assurance at the opening of site commanders and team leaders meeting in Abuja.
Recent survey revealed that the military communities have high-risk environment for HIV transmission with a ratio of 14.67%. The Ministry of Defense, as part of its response mechanism in 2005, established the Health Implementation Program in collaboration with the United States Army Medical Research with a view to curtailing the scourge of HIV and AIDS amongst troops, their families and civilians living within their environs. The program since then has impacted meaningfully on human capacity development and provided infrastructural upgrade in several military health facilities across the country. The meeting of these 2 partners, therefore, is to evaluate the efficiency of the program for a proper direction and accessibility of the antiretroviral drugs, vaccination and laboratory facilities.
This is in addition to the enhanced research and interventional efforts to curb other infectious and non-communicable diseases.
We're working together to increase access to HIV/AIDS and malaria diagnosis and treatment, to improve the quality of family planning and reproductive health services, expand access to immunization for children and women. Nigeria also has one of the highest tuberculosis burdens in Africa, and we are working closely with our Nigerian partners to address that worsening problem.
The meeting is also expected to present a guideline for the steering committee for proper implementation.
And meetings like this allow us to be able to determine the best way to grow those by sharing best practices.
And we have this program that is cheap, accessible, and people can come there with confidentiality and they can get what they need. So by establishing the military facilities and people are coming there, they are more likely to benefit.
The Nigeria Defense Ministry and United States partnership is in consonance with the United Nations action against the scourge of HIV/AIDS and global response to the epidemic in Abuja. Doing Dia, NT News.
You're watching the news on NT International, reaching you live from Abuja. More reports after this break. Please stay tuned.
One Football Confederation, 24 teams, 6 stadiums, 4 cities, 504 African stars, 1 trophy. The Africa Cup of Nations Egypt 2019 comes alive from June 21 with the showpiece final on July 19, 2019. Watch the 52 matches of the tournament live on Africa's biggest and largest television network, NTA, in partnership with Hot Sports. Be part of the biggest soccer fiesta in the African continent as the Super Eagles go on a bold mission to clinch the prestigious title for the 4th time, to the excitement of millions of fans across the length and breadth of Nigeria. For inquiries, please contact Abubakar on 0803-331-0175 and Felix on 0803-308-2375. NTA, you can't beat the rich. NTA International News. Africa as it is.
Many thanks for being there. The Joint International Republican and National Democratic Institutes have released their final report on the 2019 general elections with 5 key recommendations ahead of the 2023 general elections. Timothy Yusuf reports.
The 2019 general elections marked the 20th anniversary of the country's transition to democratic rule. The international observers believe that the elections highlighted for many Nigerians the need for a national conversation about the progress made since that transition. For the 2019 general elections, the 2 bodies urged Nigerian stakeholders to seriously consider their recommendations, bordering on legal framework and election dispute resolution.
It's important that very soon a serious discussion happens about improvements or adjustments to the electoral process so that those things can be codified into law and preparations can be made to apply those new regulations and rules into future elections.
We see it, the vitality of this country, just the tremendous resources that Nigeria disposes, human capital, material resources. We know what Nigeria can contribute to Africa and to the world.
Election stakeholders feel that INEC has improved significantly in the electoral process, pointing out that more can still be done in future elections.
They did not dispute the eventual outcome of the elections. They pointed out the deficiencies. For instance, they quoted the independent collation system of YAIGA, and they quoted it with approval, that it actually at the end of the day reflected the overall wishes of Nigerians.
The joint final report builds on the findings and recommendations of 3 pre-election assessment missions, as well as preliminary statements released following the February 23, 2019 presidential and National Assembly elections and the March 9, 2019 governorship and state houses of assembly elections. In Abuja, Timothy Yusuf, NT News.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has condemned the alleged destruction of property at the Nigerian High Commission in London by a Nigerian citizen and views the act as despicable. A statement by the acting spokesperson of the Foreign Affairs Ministry, Friday Akpan, says the act was committed by a 32-year-old Nigerian, Mr. Geoffrey Akpoweta Ewim, who was in the High Commission on June 17, 2019 to collect his international passport after the closure of the passport section. He is said to have insisted on collecting his passport but failed to provide the collection slip required. Mr. Ewim left the High Commission agitated and returned later and damaged 5 vehicles belonging to the High Commission and 2 cars belonging to visitors. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs urges all Nigerians abroad to exercise restraint and be of good behavior on the grounds of all missions of the country, as they will be given efficient services. Armed conflicts in Nigeria have forced an estimated 2 million people to flee from their homes. Many of them are now internally displaced, while others have sought to be refugees in neighboring countries. National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons is working tirelessly to respond to the most urgent needs of affected families. Obiangeli Ugoke tells us more.
All refugees, but each individual has a different story to tell. From the story of critical food shortage to affliction and abuse of their human rights.
We've taken our campaigns to the grassroots.
Mrs. Sadia Omar Farouk is the Federal Commissioner, National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons. She is collaborating with ECOWAS and the United Nations High Commission for Refugees to raise awareness on the situation of refugees, not just in Nigeria, but across the globe.
The Commission is focusing really now on durable solution, and this durable solution means how we can empower these people in different kinds of skills so that they can be economically self-reliant, they can fend for themselves and their families, and they'll be on their feet. So this is the new approach we are now focusing on.
We are investing in livelihoods, and of course we are working with many other interlocutors that are interested in these issues to make sure that we have the resources.
So the dialogue is going on at the regional level with our partners wherever they are, in Europe, in Africa, to continue to support, mixed migration and to see the positive benefits of it.
The government of Nigeria also received a pat on the back for its repatriation efforts and accommodating refugees from neighboring countries. Representatives of the various agencies appealed to all governments of the world, civil society organizations, and all philanthropists to help in sharing the burden of those who have been forced to leave their homes. Obiageli Ugoke, NTA News.
National President of the Association of Christians, Reverend Samson Ayokunle, has been re-elected for another tenure. A statement signed by Pastor Adebayo Oladeji says election held by Reverend Father Hassan Kuka that Reverend Ayokunle scored 59 votes, while his contender, Elder Caleb Ahima of Tekna Ekwa, scored 44. However, Ahima, according to the Constitution of CAN, now becomes Vice President. Reverend Father Kuka charged the new leadership of CAN to work for the unity of the association and expressed satisfaction with the election, which was free and fair. In his response, CAN President charged church leaders to work in unity with the leadership of CAN. 144 members of the National Executive Committee constituted voters who participated in the exercise. And for trending stories in the financial sector, Musa Babaliu is our guide.
The Nigeria Trader Money and Market Social Investment Initiative wins Africa's most impactful financial inclusion award. The program was recognized at the Africa Bankers Award held in Equatorial Guinea. The organizers say the social investment program succeeds in delivering financial products and services to wider parts of the society. In the meantime, the Office of the Vice President Yemi Oshibajo welcomes the recognition of the social program. In another development, investors have indicated interest in Nigeria's mango value chain. Ministry of Trade and Investment is to provide all necessary documents that bring out the country's potentials in tree crop production.
And then we can secure the proper financing. We hope to generate at least 400,000 mango trees in every state of the Federation.
And Nigeria's exchange market closed on a negative note at minus 0.39 points this Tuesday.
Presidency welcomes a joint report on the International Republican Institute and National Democratic Institute on the 2019 general elections in Nigeria and recommendations for the 2023 general elections. A statement by Garba Shehu, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, says the report shows clearly that President Buhari won the elections by almost 4 million majority with a 14% margin. A statement also, however, says the most important thing in an election is that victory reflects in the will of the people. It says the administration intends to build on the innovation of the election that facilitated inclusiveness, participation, such as providing braille and braille to the blind to cast their ballots. Top players in the digital migration of broadcasting, especially in television, are strengthening collaboration to beat the new deadline after Nigeria's failure to migrate in 2015. To this end, a technical team from Gates Air, led by the chairman, Pinnacle Communications Limited, visited the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, to perfect strategies for the switchover. Fatima Umar Buba reports.
It was a process that started many years ago to not only improve quality of television signals, but also the quantity. Having failed to meet the deadline for digital migration, the Integrated Television Services, an arm of the Nigerian Television Authority, and Pinnacle Communications Limited, two licensed signal distributors in Nigeria, have intensified efforts to get Nigeria there. So far, 6 states have migrated successfully from analog to digital transmission, and this visit to NTA by the team is to further enhance the process.
The focus of the Nigerian analog switch off and digital switch on is got the priority focus in our company to the very, very highest level.
Director General NTA Yakubu Ibn Mohammed appreciated the visit and expressed NTA's willingness to partner for a common cause, which is service delivery to Nigerians.
The relationship between ITS and Pinnacle's communication is excellent, and we are doing everything we can, both personally and officially, to make sure that we grow from strength to strength.
Very good. The beauty now is that you can see that we're collaborating with ITS, and Gombe is almost ready. We're looking at Lagos, Kano, and Port Harcourt.
The Director General also received members of the General Emmanuel Ebisoye's Foundation, where the chairman solicited NTA's cooperation to promote the essence of exemplary leadership of the late General and first Pro-Chancellor of University of Abuja.
Honesty and commitment to patriotism needs to be expounded, and so that we can have those who are coming after the youths to emulate.
The committee, which reiterated NTA's leading role in television broadcasting in Africa, urged the management to maintain the standard it has set for decades. Fatima Umar Buba, NTA News.
And now sports. Nigeria Super Eagles are now in Alexandria for their AFCON group matches. Correspondent Oche Ngbede recalls Nigeria's record and the Eagles' attempt to earn a 4th title in AFCON.
The battle line has been drawn and the 24 teams are qualified for the 2019 African Cup of Nations and now in last-minute preparation for the 32nd AFCON. Nigeria in Group B alongside Guinea, Madagascar and Burundi. Ahead of kickoff on June 21st, fans of the Super Eagles are confident that, based on the record of the 3 group members, it appears the Super Eagles are going to have their easiest group stage run ever in the history of the competition. Since 1957, when the first AFCON tournament was held, Guinea has qualified for only 12 editions, while Madagascar and Burundi are debutants in Egypt 2019.
Many thanks for watching the news on NTA International. I am Habiba Oladipo.
You've been thinking about coming to Nigeria? Then what are you waiting for? Come share in our wealth of vast resources. Come discover treasure. Come to where there's lots of business opportunities. To Nigeria. Nigeria, my nation, my pride.
botanically known as Z maize. History has it that the corn, or maize as it is most popularly called, was first domesticated by the indigenous people in the Tehuacan Valley of Mexico from the prehistoric times. Adedotun Adekunle is a professor of botany, University of Lagos.
Maize is a staple cereal crop, and it was first domesticated in Mexico, but it is found all over the world. Where it was domesticated in other places was not actually known, but it was first domesticated in Mexico. It got its name from a Spanish man, Taino Mahaz, and that's why it is called maize. Even before they brought it, that is the sailors, those who came by ship from Europe and Americas, maize was already existing in the wild in Nigeria or in Africa, but it wasn't properly domesticated, so they brought the domesticated ones.
The crop spreads through much of America and thereafter Europe. By the late 15th and early 16th centuries, it was introduced into Africa and has since become one of Africa's dominant food crops because of its ability to grow in diverse soil and climatic conditions. Like many other regions, maize is consumed as a vegetable. Although it is a grain crop, maize is rich in vitamins A, C, and E, carbohydrates, and essential minerals, and contains 9% protein. It is also rich in dietary fiber and calories, which are good sources of energy. Maize or corn is a nutritious staple food for millions of people around the world.
Well, yeah, it has a high amount of carbohydrate. It has 74% carbohydrate. And having 74% carbohydrate is maybe second to another cereal, wheat. Wheat is about 80% carbohydrate. The maize is 74%, which is very high. The protein level of maize is the highest for any cereal. It's 9.4% protein. But there's no other cereal that has up to that. They are usually lower. 7, 6. So when I talk about cereal, I talk about rice, talk about wheat, and so on. So it's quite low to that, and because of that, and of course because it can be grown everywhere, so it is easily available. It is easily available, so that's why it is mostly used.
Nigeria is blessed with fertile landmass, and thus this crop grows abundantly all over the country. Being the mother of countless number of foods in Nigeria and around the world, it is not surprising that this crop is one of the most widely propagated. Notable is the fact that maize is produced annually than any other grain crop in Nigeria, with over 50 different species available in the planting season. Being a food as well as a cash crop, it serves as a veritable source of foreign exchange and economic growth for the exporting nation.
One of the reasons why people look at Nigerian maize in its second thought is because the knowledge of aflatoxin or mycotoxin in general is from the Nigerian produce granite in the 1960s, and so a lot of people look at produce from Nigeria with a second eye, because that has happened before, where a lot of birds were killed in England in the 1960s, and mainly because of the granites that were brought from Nigeria, which were not properly dried, where they were not properly controlled before they were exported.
Every region of the world have standard as to what is required, within their society. Consumption of tolerance of aflatoxin, for example, in European Union, anything that is above 4 parts per billion is not acceptable in their society. Similar thing applies to America, where if anything is above 20 parts per billion, it's not acceptable in their society as well. So unfortunately for us, numbers of times we export crops or products, that have, or secondary product that has a aflatoxin level beyond that level. And what happens is that they create a lot and send it back to our agency here, and then the product is returned back. I particularly have an experience with one of the people that we're working with that exported pap to England, and at the point of entry, when the pap was tested, they realized that the aflatoxin level was far beyond what is acceptable in England. And what they gave him two options. First was for them to destroy it, and he's going to pay for them to destroy it. Or second is that he will have to pay to send it back to Nigeria. So both options are not good options. A big loss on trade and business.
The market actually regulates the amount of toxin that is allowed in the food that can be sold in the market. And as a result, trade is significantly affected. Trade, both domestic, regional, and international. And as a result, farmers are not only poisoned because of this toxin, but also they earn less money after selling their produce.
In Nigeria, maize is processed and prepared in various forms, including boiled, roasted, and ground forms. These different forms present as unique delicacies such as corn pudding, pap, agidi, which all serve as whole meals or combined with other meals to nourish adults and infants alike. Ground maize is prepared into porridge, popularly referred to as inyoka amongst the Igbos of the southeastern Nigeria, tuwo masara among the Hausa of the north, and simply tuwo among the Yorubas of the southwest, especially Lagosians. So also, maize flour is popular among other African countries in the southern and west African regions. Ground maize is also fried or baked in many countries. In all parts of Africa, maize is boiled or roasted on its cob and served as a snack. Popcorn is also a popular snack among the old and the young. Industrial food and beverage companies also utilize this crop in many varieties of their products. These can be seen in various baby formulas, cereals, biscuits, wafers, alcohol-based drinks, amongst numerous others. Corn is also grown for animal feeds. The cob is not left out as this serves as livestock feed. Maize is the most important cereal crop in sub-Saharan Africa and an imported staple food for more than 1.2 billion people. With an estimated 158 million hectares of farmland, worldwide production of maize is 785 million tons, with the largest producer being the United States, producing 42%. Africa produces a mere 6.5%. Nigeria producing an abysmally low 3%, equivalent of nearly 8 million tons only.
If we have the largest producer in Africa, that means we are producing a lot. I think it's more about the varieties, like I said earlier on. It's more of the kind of varieties that we're producing. We're not producing enough good varieties. We're not using very good varieties, or we're not using the kind of maize, the kind of varieties that are needed. There are about 50 varieties of maize around the world. And maybe we have about 6 available in Nigeria, and they are mostly restricted to the field type of crops of maize.
Close to 70% of food that is being produced in Nigeria are being produced by smallholder farmers, and they have been using subsistence farming practices within the country to do their farming. We need to improve on this. We need to help the farmers to have an understanding that agriculture is not just a cultural practices, it's a business. So if we start looking at it from the business perspective, then we start putting what is required in different business model into our practice. For example, we know based on finding and my work on the field that numbers of farmers within the country don't use seed. They rather use their grains, to plant on the field. It is well known that when you use grain rather than use a seed that has been worked on, as improved seed, you have lesser yield on your farm. And you use the same farmland, you have better yield when you use seed. Another issue is that sometimes when farmers seek to get seed, they don't even know where they are going to get the seed from. That's one. The second aspect is the use of fertilizer. I know there has been a lot done currently by the current Minister of Agriculture in terms of inputs and fertilizer as well. But more need to be done. Best practice management, in agricultural practices is required. When you plant on your field, do you understand the spacing? Do you space how it is needed to be spaced? All those things affect the agricultural practices within the country.
Global consumption of maize is more than 116 million tons, with Africa consuming 30% and sub-Saharan Africa 21%. One of the major setbacks for maize cultivation is aflatoxin.
Aflatoxin actually is a poison that is produced by a fungus by the name Aspergillus flavus. This fungus is very common in nature.
This is produced by a fungus, which is the members of the Aspergillus group, especially Aspergillus flavus and Aspergillus fumigatus.
Maize cob that is contaminated by fungi that produces the aflatoxins. Here you can see that the kernel is discolored and it's not looking clean and healthy as a normal kernel compared to a healthy cob here. It's looking clean and healthy. The poison cannot really be seen with the naked eyes unless you do the chemical analysis. It has no smell, it has no odor, So you have to really do the chemical analysis before you can tell whether the produce contains aflatoxin.
Aflatoxin is a potent carcinogen produced by some species of Aspergillus fungi, most commonly found in maize and groundnuts. In Nigeria, an estimated 10% to 60% of maize harvested and intended for sale have unacceptably high levels of aflatoxin, which is very harmful to consumers and consequently have very negative impact economically for growers, as affected crops are rejected in the export markets.
The fungus produces this poison that causes sometimes death in human beings and animals. It causes immune suppression, but most dangerous of all, it also stunts growth and development of children.
When aflatoxin issue is not being put in perspective on our crops, what we realize is that in most cases, the whole business that surrounds the crop suffers. If I use an example of groundnut, we will realize that we used to be one of the largest exporter of groundnut in the world, and suddenly we disappeared out of the scene. Key issues the issue that affect that is the aflatoxin problem. When the aflatoxin affected our groundnut and we were trying to export, and there were a lot of rejection, farmers were not able to sell their groundnuts, and that created disincentive for most of the farmers, and we have numbers of farmers that stop planting groundnut. We know that years back, groundnut pyramid in the north used to be a pride for this country in terms of external trade, and we lost that. Similar thing can apply to most of the other crops that we are planting that is affected by aflatoxin as well.
There is a part of southwestern state, Ekiti State, that they died at the age of 50 and 60. There was a research in the University of Ibadan. They died at the age of 50 to 60. And it was found out because they take a lot of pap. And that was zeroed down to the maize they use. So it accumulates. Aflatoxin does not kill instantly. It is a bioaccumulator. It accumulates in the body and can affect the lungs, causing carcinogenous situations that is leading to lungs cancer, which is usually terminal.
It therefore suggests that internationally appropriate standards of cultivating healthy maize is of paramount importance. Farmers themselves need proper education on how to achieve these. The International Institute of Tropical Agriculture is in the forefront of educating Nigerian farmers on the dangers of cultivating infected maize. These have been achieved through regular sensitization workshops and conferences.
Any assistance you can render to us, because if we try our best to do it the way you've instructed us to do, and by the end of it, it ends up being a waste.
Dr. Kenton Dashiell, a Deputy Director Partnership and Capacity, International Institute of Tropical Agriculture.
Our mission is to improve agriculture here in Africa, and what we plan to do and what we are doing is making agriculture more profitable for the farmers, bringing them out of poverty and making farming a business. There is a hidden danger in our food, mainly maize and groundnut, called aflatoxin. And this hidden danger, you can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it, but it's there, and it's there too often. A very new technology that is getting ready to have the big breakthrough, and it's going to revolutionize the health and nutrition of children and adults all across Africa.
The International Institute of Tropical Agriculture Research has come up with a safe method of growing healthy maize.
AflaSafe is a product that is a coating on sorghum seed. And farmers just throw this out in their maize crop. The sorghum doesn't grow. It just is, the sorghum is just there as food for the fungus. But this good fungus now attacks the maize and the groundnut, so that we don't have a problem with aflatoxin.
Aside from demonstration farms which enable farmers to learn firsthand how the aflatoxin presents, what to do at the onset of the problem, and how to improve on the seed, planting management, and harvest of these all-important foods and cash crops.
Onto these dead plant residues.
wọ́n ní ká má kúrò ní tábàdà yìí. àwọn ẹ̀ má dúró. ayọ̀ wá lọ fún ọ ní. táyé. èmi fẹ́ gba kí ẹ máa fọwọ́.
There are three things about, or two major things: pre-harvest and post-harvest. Pre-harvest, that's on the field, then post-harvest after harvesting it out of the field. Now, on the first, cultural practices in both cases. Cultural practices and be able to reduce the amount of aflatoxin and using resistant varieties against fungal diseases. When the resistant varieties, there are a lot of resistant varieties now around in the market and research institutes, which can also always be available to farmers. And so when we have resistant varieties, we will hardly have this fungal organism attacking it, especially from the Aspergillus group, Aspergillus niger, Aspergillus flavus, Aspergillus fumigatus. There are other mycotoxins, because aflatoxin is a type of mycotoxin, but mainly from Fusarium, that can also be added in getting resistant varieties against fungal diseases also. So those are some of the practices which can be done to reduce aflatoxin content of a produce. Actually, you might not be able to remove aflatoxin entirely from a produce. There are only safe limits. Safe limit is set to about 30 micrograms per kilogram. You might not be able to do, if you have 5 micrograms of aflatoxin within a kilogram of maize, it is acceptable. You might not be able to remove it entirely. But when it's above the safe limit, then there's a problem.
tó bá jẹ́ pé ọwọ́ yín ebè mẹ́ta ló ká ebè mẹ́ta náà ní kẹ́ sọ tó bá jẹ́ ebè méjì ló ká ebè méjì náà ní torí kó lè kárí.
Farmers like Alhaji Ibrahim Jimo Adeshola are already taking advantage of the worthy interventions of the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture in terms of viable seeds and other appropriate interventions to mitigate the grave consequences of aflatoxin on maize plots as a means of improving their yield per hectare of cultivation and making their crop acceptable internationally.
When I plant this corn, I enjoy it very, very much because year by year it's yielding, and I get a much of money there, in which I'm taking it to take care of my son, my relatives, and all the others.
I'm happy with the work of farming since I completed my education, because farming is the first human occupation that God blessed. That is the reason I'm happy regards the occupation, especially in the area of maize plantation and the rest of it. But it is very unfortunate because we have come across a whole lot of challenges regards this farming work. For instance, not making sales after the whole maize cultivation processing, especially when we face attacks from insects, pests and rodents that destroys our farm produce. When our maize plantation is ready for harvest, different pests destroys the produce, especially on the AFLA-safe products that is meant to be used on our farm to protect our produce, ourselves, and the future of the farming.
It is expected that the large-scale, medium and small-scale farmers of maize in Nigeria will also take advantage of the numerous advantages offered by the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture to improve on the quality and yield of maize annually and consequently improve on their foreign exchange earnings. The talking drum is an hourglass-shaped and two-faced with a drum on each end. It is also known as waist drum. The drum is made from animal hide and has leather cords which run along its body attached to the animal hide on either ends. Talking drums vary in sizes, from the smallest called gong-gong to to the largest known as Iyailu and Dundun. The talking drum is held under the arm and squeezed as the drummer hits the surface with a bent stick. The act of squeezing the chords changes the pitch and gives various notes and messages. The higher the drum is squeezed, the higher the notes produced, giving the drum a type of rhythm that can be used to communicate. The origin of the talking drum can be traced to the ancient Old Oyo Empire, from where its popularity has spread to other parts of southwest Nigeria. With the advent of the transatlantic slave trade, the talking drum was subconsciously exported to other parts of the world. Today, in parts of Brazil, Germany, France, and so on, the talking drum has become part of their musical instruments. The talking drum is called by different names across Nigeria, some of which include Gongon, Dundun, or Iyailu among the Yorubas, Kalagun among the Hausas, and Iba among the Igbos. The pitch of the talking drum can be regulated based on how the player strikes the surface of the drum and squeezes the connecting strings to change its lyrics and rhythm. The talking drum mimics the way human beings talk, hence the name talking drum. The talking drum is believed to communicate with the spiritual world, as it does also with the living. The talking drum produces prayers and blessings for every new day in countless villages and palaces. It is the oldest instrument used in communicating messages in most parts of Yoruba land till date.
Welcome to another informative and educative episode of NAFDAC and Your Health. My name is Tosin Omolaja and I'm reaching you from Mile 12 in Lagos. Today we shift our focus to food. Food is the fuel that powers life. And today on the program, we'll be looking at the usage of additives to preserve foods. But first, we join the food producing community in Nigeria and indeed the world in celebrating World Food Safety Day.
Food safety is of great importance to all of us. Unless you are fasting, you've already taken food this morning, or you have taken water. So this is about us, this is about our bodies, this is about our health, and this is about the economic sustenance of Nigeria.
The 2019 World Food Safety Day is the maiden edition of the day, marked all over the world to promote the importance of food safety. According to the World Health Organization, there are about 600 million cases of foodborne diseases annually, 40% of which is found amongst children under the age of 5 and accounting for about 125,000 deaths each year. As NAFDAC joins the global community in celebrating the first Food Safety Day, the challenges faced in Nigeria comes to the fore.
Foodborne hazards can be microbiological, chemical, or physical in nature and are often invisible to the plain eye. For example, bacteria, viruses, pesticide residues are some examples. Food safety has a critical role in assuring that food stays safe at every stage of the food chain, from production to harvest, processing, storage, distribution, all the way to preparation and consumption.
The Director General of NAFDAC, Professor Adeyeye, described some recurring issues of safety that are being aggressively tackled by the agency.
Some of these include artificial ripening of fruits, using unapproved agents such as calcium carbide, which could have deleterious effects on health when such fruits are consumed. The use of containers contaminated with hazardous chemicals, such as fertilizer bags for grains or chemical drums and jerry cans for food storage, is a classic example of common practice among the market women and men due to ignorance. Thirdly, inappropriate use of chemicals such as diclovers or sniper for storage of grains and other agricultural produce that often lead to contamination of stored products. This has been implicated with exports especially, and with dealers of agricultural commodities who spray hazardous pesticides on produce during storage to prevent damage by pests at the cost of human lives and public health.
Other issues highlighted at the event and which are being given serious attention by NAFDAC include food package and the use of non-food grade inks in the printing of food packages, the rampant display of food products in the sun, which could produce harmful byproducts such as benzene in soft drinks.
Companies may be advised to produce mock packs to be used for display. Such mock packs should be labeled boldly as sample, not for sale, for display only.
Issues associated with transportation of food, where transporters use the same vehicles to transport fertilizers and other agrochemicals and other hazardous chemicals, thereafter use same to transport food. There is also been cases of using petroleum tankers for transporting vegetable oil, water, and other food products. These issues are of grave concern to NAFDAC, and the agency is taking the menace head-on. Other key components of food safety, the agency is working tirelessly to ensure complies with regulatory standards, our quality and hygiene of machineries and equipment used in food processing, storage facilities, adulteration of food with other dangerous agents like azo dye in palm oil production, illicit packaging of alcohol that have high levels of contaminants like methanol, and so on. The occasion also witnessed a robust array of knowledge and information sharing delivered by distinguished experts, thought leaders, and professionals. Food additives are very important for food preservation, food enhancement, and sometimes even for aesthetic purposes. There are, however, limits to the use of additives. Hence, there are approved additives and those that are considered outrightly dangerous, in which case they become adulteration agents rather than additives, and these substances have severe negative health effects on the human body. An example of such adulteration agents is potassium bromate, used to improve quantity of dough in bread production.
It's added to bread to make it voluminous. It's added to bread to give it a good breaking texture, you know, but it's been found to be injurious. I actually believe it's found to be cancerous. So if more studies have been found out that is not acceptable for use, then we should desist, no matter the appearance or the look that you will give to the food. It's the health implication that matters.
One other unapproved additive that has been found to be rampantly used is azo dye, used in making palm oil look attractively red.
Even excessive use of acceptable additives such as salt and monosodium glutamate for flavoring and taste could compromise food safety and result in high blood pressure and other ailments. Companies should ensure that any food additive they intend to use in their products can receive regulatory approval before they can use it.
NAFDAC has since Professor Adeye's assumption of duty as Director General taken engagement with all relevant stakeholders to a much higher level through workshops, seminars, meetings with head of market associations, and so on, to not only educate the market women and men about the dangers of these substances, but also to listen to their challenges and help to ensure their needs are met within the mandate of the agency.
What we are doing in NAFDAC is we are already engaging with most of these traders. We've had quite a couple of meetings with them, Fruit Dealers Association, market associations, you know, transporters and all that. And the goal is to ensure that we enlighten them and let them know the dangers associated with the practice.
At Mile 12 Market in Lagos, which is one of the biggest food markets in the country, these enlightenment programs have transformed how the market is structured and managed.
The collaboration with NAFDAC has been very fruitful in the past few years. Before, we used to fear NAFDAC. When we hear NAFDAC, we run away because we don't understand each other. But for the past few years, we've been working together, and it's yielding fruit in the sense that we are able to sanitize our market, our traders in the market, especially those in the section, the food section that has to do with NAFDAC, like the edible oil, rice and beans, and all others that use something to sell their market. A lot of things we don't know as market women, but we are able to understand. Having meetings and seminars with NAFDAC, that has gone a long way to improve the relationship between the markets and the NAFDAC.
Within the markets, leaders have also stepped up not only enlightenment, but enforcement of standards, thereby actively working shoulder to shoulder with the agency in safeguarding the health of the nation.
What we have done is that our leaders, the sectional leaders, especially in the edible oil, they have been able to make sure that none of our traders add additive to their oil. You know, that has been the practice in a few years back. We are able to enlighten them, we are able to educate them of the dangers when they use this thing to mix their oil.
The first thing that we did was to reorganize ourselves to ensure that whoever amongst us that is giving us bad name, so we weed such a person away. And there is what they call zero tolerance as regards as far as my 12 is. So being an international market, so the Yaloja will just ask such a person to leave the market. But we are not saying that there are no more bad eggs, but whoever we could apprehend, we ensure that we deal with such a person. So by so doing, we know that when you talk of good health, then you have to talk of good food. And we are trying all that is possible to ensure that we do the right thing and work along with them to sanitize our market.
The sellers in the markets have therefore aligned and have become even more vigilant.
We have to check carefully before purchasing them. Since we know it's against the law, we have to be careful in order not to go against the law. We are aware that it's not edible. We all know that natural palm oil doesn't come in deep red color. Once it's deep red, then it's suspicious. We won't buy it.
For sellers of food like beans, the challenge is a bit more complicated as the use of unapproved additives and preservatives go way up the supply chain.
Actually, from where we buy our products, from Meduguri Muna Garage, or Dawonu in Kano, or Nguru, and some other places all over the country. The way they preserve beans, because during the time of harvest, the price of beans is normally cheap. So some people that have money do buy for storage, so that when the price goes up, they will resell. So what they normally do, there are some preservative medicine they normally use. Some of them are in liquid form. They do dilute it with water and spread on it, and they pack it for up to a year so that it will not spoil. So for the people that want to sell their own, maybe within 2 months, within a month, there are some tablets that are not harmful to our body that they do also use to preserve beans.
However, here in the markets, and due to NAFDAC's collaborations and enlightenment, food sellers are not resting on their oars in ensuring food safety.
They don't use it anymore. We'll be able to get that across to them. And we are monitoring them. That's what we did. We have our task force. We say zero tolerance. Each sectional heads here do the monitoring. They have people which they put as their task force, who goes and who understands and who sees. We have someone monitoring every oil that enters this market. We have an officer for it, and he does it from morning till we close in the evening. That's the type of monitoring I'm talking about. Someone to monitor where is this goods coming from? What is the quality of these goods? How are we sure we are bringing the right thing into the market for people to consume? This is what we are doing.
NAFDAC consistently monitors production of food production facilities, and all unregistered organizations found are shut down. Recently, a number of sachet water facilities operating in the shadows and under unhygienic conditions were discovered. Since the last quarter of 2018, the Food Safety and Applied Nutrition Directorate of the agency has amplified its surveillance with intensive and unannounced inspections of food production and water processing facilities across the country to ensure compliance with NAFDAC food safety regulations and guidelines. Those who are found to be unsatisfactory are placed on hold, while others with minor non-conformances are sanctioned administratively to ensure compliance. Registration and supervision by regulatory bodies such as NAFDAC is designed to ensure that whoever is interested in doing food business of any sort, including water, is doing so under healthy conditions and is guiding to ensure that there are no contaminants in the finished products that can be injurious to the health of the consumer.
How are contaminants different from additives? Contaminants are substances that you find in food that are not intentionally added to the food, maybe through the production process or through carelessness that you find them in the food. There are for some contaminants, we have like mercury, like arsenic, we have levels like methyl carbamate, we have levels. Once it's above that level, the food would not be accepted. But there are some contaminants that should not even be in food at all. Maybe because of poor handling, spoilage, or things like that, that could cause death or could lead to injurious health. So those ones are not acceptable and would not be accepted in any minute quantity in the food. And we in NAFDAC work with acceptable standards that have been agreed nationally and internationally. So our food can be traded across the world because we don't just unilaterally set up standards. We work with over 180 countries globally to set standards, and those are the standards that we use for the fortification or manufacture, processing of food substances in Nigeria.
Since taking over the helms of NAFDAC, Professor Adeyeye has also been hands-on, visiting food production facilities across the country to ensure that every single food product made for consumption in Nigeria and or imported are safe for consumption and does not pose any health threat to the Nigerian people.
Okay, so what do they do here?
Now this plant, as I explained to you, is a fully automated plant. Yes. So they are controlling the plant with the PLC.
The job of regulating and ensure compliance, however, does not end at monitoring and surveillance or even enlightenment. At NAFDAC laboratories across the country, required equipment for laboratory testing of food have been upgraded to ensure efficient regulatory work and world-class analysis of food samples. Dr. Charles Nwachukwu is the Director of Laboratory Services Food at NAFDAC. Recently, the laboratory equipment got upgraded to world-class standards to ensure every food produced to be sold to the public is contaminant-free.
This is vitamin and additives laboratory unit of the Central Lab, Oshodi. Here we analyze for the presence of vitamins, both fat-soluble and water-soluble, as well as the additives. In December 2017, we had issues with equipment in the laboratory. Either they were not functioning, or they were malfunctioning, or they were not functioning at all and obsolete. But by the grace of God, within last year and now, we have procured some new state-of-the-art equipment. One of them is this HPLC. This is Agilent 1290 Infinity 2 HPLC. This is used and is going to be dedicated for water-soluble vitamins only. That is the folic acid, vitamin B1, B2, B6, cyanocobalamin, that is B12. Now, we have also, in addition to that, had some other HPLC. This is another Agilent, which is dedicated for vitamin B, vitamin A, D, and E, which are the fat-soluble vitamins. There's another one here which is dedicated for the non-nutritive sweeteners. We have two sets of HPLC that are used basically for mycotoxin. Our activities has improved tremendously. Those parameters we were not able to do before now has begun to manifest. And so our activities and productivity has tremendously improved with the procurement of this new equipment. In addition to the equipment, we have received about 500 million worth of chemicals, which is being distributed now to the various labs for use in the laboratory. We are no more going to be in tears while working. We're going to be smiling because all what we need to work with will be available. This is ICP-MS, inductively coupled plasma, affiliated to a mass spectrometry detector. This equipment is used for the detection of heavy metals in food, such as arsenic in any food, cadmium, zinc, and all other heavy metals. This is the equipment we use. With this, we can work on rice, arsenic in rice, and mercury in fish.
As NAFDAC continues to up the ante as far as its mandate is concerned, the public is also enjoined to take more precautions.
We'll take a short break now, and when we return, we'll take a look at fortification and why it is important to our health. Welcome back. There has been a huge problem of malnutrition in some parts of Nigeria.
Research has shown that there is a significant amount of deficiency of some essential nutritional vehicles and vitamins across the country, which led the government to mandate certain food producers to fortify their finished food products.
Fortification means you add certain micronutrients to those food products. And what are micronutrients? These are things like vitamin A, multivitamin vitamins like vitamin A, iodine, iron, and all some of these things that are actually deficient in some of our diets.
Some of the foods to be fortified include flour, salt, vegetable oil, and sugar. For salt, producers must fortify with iodine. Vegetable oil and sugar must be fortified with vitamin A. This fortification exercise is keenly monitored for compliance. The food fortification exercise is an interagency effort and operates under the umbrella of the National Fortification Alliance, set up for the formulation of policies essential for the health of the nation and sustenance of the food fortification program to ensure a nationwide consumption of adequately fortified food.
Micronutrients are key to maternal and child health. Healthy and vibrant populations are needed for achieving the socio-economic development of any country. We may recall that the National Fortification Alliance was birthed as a fallout of the mandate of that a few selected food staples like sugar, flour, salt, vegetable